Okay, Judge Cannon.
There's a lot to talk about here.
Why is she a judge? I mean, honestly.
Yeah, she's a judge because I have a feeling Trump and company knew they could rely on her to do whatever was in Donald Trump's interest. I don't say that with any glee or satisfaction. She is uniquely unqualified to serve as a federal judge, enjoying a lifetime appointment at our expense, at taxpayers' expense. Because when you look at her resume, so to speak, she's entirely unqualified. And I think that, and I think she proved the point by that absolute mess of a ruling that really, I think the centerpiece of it is that, listen, I think this might harm Donald Trump's reputation. Let's set aside just how laughable that sentence is.
Right.
But because I think it might harm his reputation, I'm gonna order something that the law does not allow.
And so the DOJ did file an appeal that apparently is just really well written because, well, they're actual lawyers. And Trump has also said that the FBI planted evidence again. He's going back to that after admitting that he had the stuff, but it wasn't strewn about his office. I mean, the appeal is well written apparently, and people are really liking that.
Yeah, and it would persuade an actual judge.
Yeah.
Will it persuade Aileen Cannon? I have no idea. At what point does she care about her reputation, her credibility, her lifetime appointment? I don't know. But you have to love how, the defense will just pull any argument out of its briefcase and go from I didn't have the documents to I declassified the documents to, oh, the FBI planted the documents. Then it seemed like they abandoned the FBI planted them. And he said, no, they were all mine. And now he's back to the FBI planted them. And let's just lay to rest this notion of declassification. In the court filings, his defense team never once told the court he had declassified anything, and yet you have Donald Trump's lackeys and lapdogs and criminal associates out there continuing to push the declassification line. Jody, this is all about, distraction, muddying the waters, keeping the money flowing into Donald Trump's pockets. He continues to fool the gullible, and I know we'll talk about Bannon because that just also blows my mind. But listen, if the judge has any self-respect and any intellectual honesty, she will now wise up and do what the Department of Justice is asking.
Yeah, they're giving her an out, basically, of her bad ruling. They're like, here, we will hand this to you. You rule in our favor, and you will not be as awful as you were last week. I mean, they're giving her an off-ramp, is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, and will she take it or not? And listen, the DOJ is mindful that if they have to appeal the whole shebang, it goes to the 11th Circuit.
Yeah.
Which is, the 11th Circuit is lousy with Trump appointees. Lousy is my old Brooklyn/Jersey word, right? It's full of Trump appointees. Yeah. So they know it will continue to be a bit of a slog if they have to go through more Trump appointees. Now, I'm not saying every Trump appointee to the federal bench is necessarily bad or unqualified. We've seen some Trump-appointed judges rise to the occasion of actually applying the law as intended. So,
yes, we have.
But listen, I think one way or another, DOJ's position will win the day. It's just a question of at what level.
Do you think they're going to take the because Barb McQuaid was talking about this, the radical step of just indicting him in D.C. whilst this is also going on?
Yeah, it's a really interesting, and I don't want to get down into the legal weeds. It's a really interesting jurisdictional or venue question. Is this thing even in the right court down in Florida? I can actually make an argument on both sides of it, but any litigation over the Presidential Records Act, which is a piece of this litigation right now, is only appropriately brought in D.C. Federal District Court. But that, to me, doesn't even necessarily mean that everything needs to come up to D.C. I wish it would. because I have more faith and confidence in most of the D.C. federal judges than I do certainly in Judge Cannon. But listen, let's go right to your original point and question is, shouldn't he be indicted in D.C.? Yes, he should. And yes, we can, because we have the evidence.
I mean, he admitted to it. So it's not like he's like, I never would have the files on my floor like that. They were nice and put away in boxes, which means he admitted to having these things that he was not allowed to have. So
another thing, Jody, not to interrupt you, but to lay to rest, I've been involved as the prosecutor in the execution of more search warrants like that I could count. And one thing we do is we take pictures. The crime scene search officers will take pictures as we enter to document the way the room looked as we entered it. And then once we begin to find evidence, we will lay it out in the room and take pictures of it in the room from which it was seized. This is exactly how law enforcement does it. But some people, some of the gullible folk are like, oh my God, they moved them around. Well, yeah, we had to take pictures of where we found them.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen, drug busts laid out on a big table before. It's like, the drug dealers don't do that. They're smart enough to hide stuff.
Exactly.
And can I tell you, Jody, one of my favorite stories? We were investigating the biggest RICO gang ever to run the drug and violence and gun trade in D.C. And we ended up bringing multiple RICO prosecutions, and I got to try those cases. One of the scenes that we hit, that we did a search warrant on, this particular kingpin had like endless $3,000 suits, beautiful suits, all like pristinely lined up in his closet. And when you open it up, in each breast pocket, 10 grand cash, 10 grand cash. So no matter what suit he picked up and put on, he had 20 grand for a night on the town, which I just thought was a beautiful thing and should be, made into a movie.
I love that. So that's fantastic. We should make that into a movie. So Steve Bannon, finally, I think he's actually going to go to prison. What do you think?
I agree. It looks like they've got the goods on Bannon. I was sort of leafing through the 25-page indictment. The case looks strong. The evidence looks strong. We don't know precisely which of his co-defendants are cooperating, but one or more of them are. It looks like they have written communications that will sink him. And I'll tell you, when he walked into court yesterday, he didn't look good. I mean, maybe it was just me, but he kind of looked like he was 3 shirts to the wind.
Well, that's kind of his look all the time.
That's always his look.
Yeah.
So, Travis, you were putting up number 6. You want to play that clip?
Clip number 6 is actually Bannon when he was being led in handcuffs to the courtroom.
Okay, here we go.
This is what happens the last days of the dying regime. They will never shut me up. They'll have to kill me first. I have not yet begun to fight.
Wow.
That might be the only way to get him to stop talking.
How mind-blowing is it that he stole from Donald Trump's supporters with this bogus We Build the Wall Foundation? And what did Donald Trump say? Steve, I got you. It's all good. I'm going to pardon you for stealing from my supporters. Now, we don't know if Donald Trump got a cut of the money that Steve Bannon stole from Trump's supporters. I would be shocked if Donald Trump didn't wet his beak a little bit with that money, right?
I agree.
And yet people continue to send guys like Bannon and Donald Trump their hard-earned dollars, which is just, beyond a crime. That it's a sin, it's a shame, it's heartbreaking that they can continue to be fooled by people who openly steal from them.
I know. Travis,
I was going to say, this morning, and they tied that together on Morning Joe this morning, because Donald Trump's Save America PAC is now being investigated. We found out yesterday.
It is.
The Department of Justice grand jury is looking into that aspect of it.
Well, the fact that he called it Save America PAC is just their saps, because.
And I welcome every new investigation, but you know what? We've already got 15 investigations that have developed enough evidence to indict him. So, you know what? At some point, I'm not thrilled when I see new criminal investigations open, because I don't want that to be then used as a vehicle for more delay. Oh, DOJ has to take its time to do. Well, at some point, you've got to get off the dime, and you've got to indict the man for the many crimes he's committed.
Well, can't you indict him for X amount of crimes and then just keep adding more indictments later? I don't see why there's a delay other than the fact that he is an ex-president. I think that's the only reason, right?
You're absolutely right. And, the sort of tried and true approach of federal prosecutors is you indict something first, and then you build with what we call superseding or subsequent indictments. You add charges, you add defendants, you add conspiracies. And that's why I don't understand the paralyzing hesitation of the Department of Justice to do what it would do in every other case: indict and build.
I mean, there's got to be people that helped him get the documents down to Mar-a-Lago. It wasn't just him bringing stuff. But my theory is he started bringing it down in 2017. I think he started bringing stuff down before he left. Because just bringing them down then makes no sense to me. And I also think he's got all the blackmail on the RNC with him down there too. It is mind-boggling that he has yet to be indicted for just the Mueller report 10 obstruction of justice things, which are now is the statute too late for that at this point?
Not necessarily. It depends. So if this is an ongoing conspiracy, and let me tell you, I was an aggressive prosecutor, but I also aggressively protected the rights of the defendant, and that resulted in me prosecuting police officers who overstepped their constitutional bounds. But I was an aggressive prosecutor. I can see a model of prosecution that actually puts everything under one big conspiratorial umbrella, from the campaign finance conspiracy he was in with Michael Cohen back in 2016 to steal the presidency, through what he's doing now. Because the overarching theme is that he committed so many crimes to acquire power and then to retain power. And the reason I say that is because if this is all one big ongoing conspiracy, then guess what? The statute of limitations has not yet even begun to run, because it's all part of the same crime. It's only when the last crime is committed and the conspiracy is at an end, that's when the 5-year statute of limitations starts running. So, but that's just me. I would like to see him held accountable for all his crimes.
I think that you should be our AG.
I think so too.
Just saying. Do you think that Merrick Garland is waiting for Georgia or
New York?
Do you think he's waiting for New York or Georgia to kind of just start the ball rolling? I mean,
I feel like we're all waiting for Godot, but no, I don't think he's waiting. I don't think he's waiting for any other jurisdiction to act or to make prosecutorial decisions. I still have confidence in him. I have faith in him, and I have trust in him, although I am a vocal critic of DOJ from time to time because I think they're moving too slowly, which is precisely what I saw happen from the inside for decades of DOJ. And I would rail against it. I would fight against it. I would argue with my superiors, trying to bring cases that were novel and that represented maiden legal voyages. I will say, Jody, I generally won those arguments and was authorized to bring those cases. Sometimes I won those cases. Sometimes I lost those cases. But it was always the right thing to do on behalf of the American people, even if it was a maiden legal voyage for which there was no precedent. So I don't think Merrick Garland is waiting. I do think this is DOJ doing what DOJ does, trying to build the perfect beast in the grand jury, trying to build a bulletproof case that they cannot lose. But I can promise you, there's no such thing as a bulletproof case that prosecutors can't lose. If that were the standard, we would rarely bring any criminal cases.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, and again, when you're going for an ex-president, you have to be as perfect as possible. So I understand the delay. I agree. I think it's going to happen. And oh my goodness, it's already 50 minutes
Mm-hmm.
after the hour, sir. Thank you so much for coming on with me. It'll be with Ms. Miller next week.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
I
with
can't
Miss
wait
Miller
to see
tomorrow.
everybody in DC.
Yeah, good to see everybody
on
tomorrow.
Stage, yeah,
Yeah.
on stage at the Sidney Harmon Hall, 8:00 in my backyard, Washington D.C.
Absolutely.
I can't wait.
Yeah, and tickets are available now at sexyliberal.com. We have a few left, so get them while you can.
Yeah, you got to see this lovely man in person, people. Come on.
I
Yes.
gave a shout out on Tuesday. I ran into a couple up north, Jim and Sue from Ventura, and they were saying that they were actually thinking about buying tickets to DC just because she wanted to see you. Apparently, there's a hall pass
Wow,
involved in this. I don't know.
That's very flattering. I do know that we got a lot of Team Justice members in the D.C. area that are planning to attend.
Yep.
Looking
right.
forward to it. Have fun on Saturday, you guys. Have a good time. Thank you so much for being on. It is.